All right, chiropractors, welcome back. So today we're going to talk about marketing. What works, what doesn't work, what's a waste of your time, what's a waste of your money, what what you can actually benefit from, what you will just spin your wheels in. Okay? So marketing is a massive topic, all right? In our training, I go through every single one of these things in detail, but that's hours of content. So I'm trying to give you a shorter podcast version of that, okay? So here's what it looks like. So when you're marketing for a chiropractic clinic, there are things that will work and there are things that will not work. And trust me, I know I've spent, what would it be? Over $500,000 on marketing. No, more than that. 20,000 a month. I spent almost $1 million on marketing in the last 6 years. Okay. So I have a pretty good idea of what works and what doesn't work. So let me give you some basis for that, right? So the average amount of new patients that came into the clinics that I ran was 100 to 125 every single month, right? Every month that was happening. And I tried a bunch of different things, right? So I'm going to give you kind of like a list of things that people do, and I'm going to tell you what from that works and what doesn't work. So first, billboards. Billboards are a complete waste of your time. They're a waste of your money. Nobody came in off of a billboard, all right? Do not pay for billboards. I don't care what the rep says. I don't care how much traffic goes through the area. I don't care how many people see the billboard. Billboards are only good for brand awareness. So those people will know that you're there. But if you think that someone driving down the street is going to be like, oh, I better call them, I have back pain right now while I'm driving, that's not going to happen. Okay. So if you want to use them for brand awareness and you have extra marketing dollars, which, most chiropractic clinics don't, you can have one for brand awareness, but don't expect new patient development off of it. Okay. So billboards, I would not recommend it. Newspaper ads. Newspapers are dying. Okay. There are a small subsect of the population who still reads a newspaper. However, the ads are obscenely expensive. So I'd only do a newspaper ad if you're going to do it for like a seminar or a dinner talk or something like that. And if you do a newspaper ad, you need to buy a whole page. Okay. So you need to buy a whole page to market it. The good news is that they do go typically to an older population at this point, but most people are off of newspapers. They're not purchasing newspapers anymore, right? They're getting their news online. So I would not spend the money on newspaper. I'd spend that money to market a seminar in other ways. Postcards, right? So direct mail still does work, but it really only works in the capacity that you're going to market a dinner talk or a seminar, okay? And you need to use them in that fashion where you're going to get in front of 30 people, right? And of those 30 people, you're going to convert at least 30% of them. And then if you have a good enough plan, like where you have some maybe high dollar items, like if you have regenerative medicine or you have some sort of injectables, then you can pretty easily pay back your dinner talk seminar. However, you can expect to spend, anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 every single week marketing for those weekly talks and postcards. So you can do them once a month. You need to make sure though, however, that you have the skills and you know what to say in the seminar. You need to have the right presentation because nothing is worse than spending, $3,000 for a seminar marketing campaign and having nobody show up or having people show up and nobody convert. Okay. So you need to have the sales skills and you need to have the right presentation in order to make sure that those are effective. I have used them extensively, but I have sales skills. I have the presentation down like Pat. I have the right presentation. I say the right things. I'm not afraid to close patients on care at the event. And so, I can have a room full of 30 and I get 10 new patients off of that. And I can close 8 of those 10 on, like an $8,000 care plan, right? So that obviously that math works out. But for those of you who have like smaller care plans where they're like maybe $2,000, and you don't have a presentation, you don't have sales skills, you don't like close people when you see them so that you can actually help them, I wouldn't recommend it. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. So just doing posts, right, is probably not going to get you a lot of new patients. In fact, it's probably not going to get you any because the people who follow you on those are already your patients. The only way that digital marketing works is if you do paid ad campaigns, right, where you're reaching an audience that doesn't already see you. And you need to be really careful with the business that you do business with that's going to do that for you, right? So I've done it with numerous businesses. I've only found one that actually worked, right? The rest of them, I spent roughly $8,000 to $10,000 a month, and I got like maybe 3 new patients off of it, right? And in their mind, they're like, well, you're getting a positive ROI. It's like, yeah, but it's not worth 10 grand, right? It's like I could spend 10 grand in other avenues and get a whole bunch more patients, right? But the one that does work, I would spend 10 grand and I would get 40 new patients every month. That was the equation, right? So it works, but it's not the first avenue I would go after because it's expensive, right? So for 10 grand to get 40 new patients is a pretty high acquisition cost, right? And that's 40 new patients on the schedule. That's not converted into care plans. So that's pretty high acquisition costs, and many offices can't afford that. And so I would say that is something that you want in your repertoire when you're a little bit bigger and you have more marketing budget to spend. In the beginning, though, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. There's just cheaper ways that you can get higher level of patients. So digital marketing, yes, as long as it's paid ad campaigns run by a company that specializes in chiropractic marketing. And I have one. If you guys want to know what the name of it is, just give me or contact me and I'd be happy to give it to you. But you can expect a high cost of acquisition. And if you can support that, if your plans support that, if your operating costs support that, then you can add it. I would wait until you're a little bit bigger and to do it so that you can, because it's really just a game of dollars. The more dollars you throw at it, the more new patients you get. If you put in, like $3,000, I don't know that it's worth it unless you're selling bigger plans. Let's see, what else? Like remailers, right? Where it's like, oh, we haven't seen you in this long. I wouldn't even do those. I wouldn't do anything via mail unless it was direct postcard, because they just cost a lot to send out, right? So it costs, let's say 50 cents to send out a remailer. Let's say you send it out to 500 people, right? It's $250 to maybe get one patient in, right? So the numbers, the math just doesn't work out on that. Instead, I would have a texting service that reminds people, and that costs like $80 a month, right? And you can text everybody for $80. So that's what I would do if you're doing like callbacks, right? You're like trying to get a patient back in care. But the deeper problem to that, and we cover this extensively in our training, and I have some videos here that also cover it, is you shouldn't have lost that patient in the first place, right? If your systems are correct, if what you say is correct, if all of that is in place, then you won't lose the patients in the first place, so you won't have to do callbacks, right? What else do people do? They talk about blogs. They talk about podcasts. They talk about basically just like get your name out there a bunch. In the real world, that is not effective. Like nobody is coming into your office off of a blog unless you already have a massive presence, right? So blogs are like helpful if you have like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen like that Dr. Axe website, right? Well, it's like you type in any health thing and there's a Dr. Axe blog on that. And maybe if he had a clinic, and he probably does, I would go to it. But until you're that size, you're dumping in a massive amount of effort for not much return. Blogs, trash. Website. A website is just for information, okay? Like there's gonna be companies out there that try to sell you $12,000 a year, $18,000 a year website new patient converters. It's a complete waste of money, right? Like you may get one new patient a month off of that, but the goal here is to make the money make sense, right? So it's like, it's not just all money for any new patients. The money has to make sense. So if I spend $18,000 a year with a company that's like, yeah, we convert new patients, right? And I get 18 new patients off of it, or 12 new patients a year off of it, is it a positive ROI? Yeah, it's positive ROI, but what if I took that same money and I put it in something that, off of $12,000, I get 50 new patients, right? And I scale that instead. And so a lot of these companies are going to be like, well, you're positive ROI, you're positive ROI, you're positive ROI, but that's irrelevant. What's relevant is cost of new patient acquisition, like acquisition cost is what the metric is called, and what your level of conversion is, so you know what your true patient acquisition cost, right? That's what's relevant. And so you can spend, $1,000 a month getting one new patient, or you can spend $1,000 a month getting, 8 new patients, right? That's an entirely different ballgame. And if you have the system to get 8 new patients, why would you spend the $1,000 on the website? You should spend that $1,000 on the thing that gets 8, right? And then you want to scale that up as much as you can until you reach a saturation point. So websites, think of them as a billboard, right? They're going to tell your services. They're going to introduce your staff. They're basically just like an information hub. But most people who visit your website in the healthcare industry specifically are not going to convert off of your website. And the reason I say that is because when people are considering health decisions, what they will take in consideration online is like your Google reviews. So I would absolutely push those, like get 1,000, 5-star Google reviews. That's really helpful because it gives you social credibility. Your website can be a $50,000 website, but nobody gives a crap about that $50,000 website versus the $200 website you got from Fiverr. And the differences between them, because they just don't convert, right? Websites don't convert anymore. They don't convert in the healthcare space, right? What converts in the healthcare space is trust. And trust comes from people. It doesn't come from things, right? This is where a lot of chiropractors get it wrong. They think that they can build social trust through things, websites, billboards, newspapers, digital posts on your Facebook. No one gives a crap about that. your patients that are already your patients, so they're not going to get you new patients. And don't even waste money boosting it. It's fruitless. Don't do it. So how you get people as new patients in the healthcare industry is trust, and trust comes from people. So when you think about marketing in the healthcare space, you shouldn't think of things, you should think of people. And so websites, it's just a directory, okay? It's never gonna make you big, ever. It's just not, unless you already have a massive social influence, okay? And you can build it over time if you want. That's not where I would spend my time and effort. I'll spend my time and effort working on marketing that works and get big through patient treatment, and then allow the referrals and the outcomes to drive in new patients, rather than, spending 5 years trying to be a thought leader on a blog. Like, it just takes too much time. You don't have time for that. What else do people do? So people do radio ads. I wouldn't do a radio ad. You couldn't pay me to do a radio ad. It's a complete waste of time. Same thing with TV ads. Those things that are like actual ads they're really time specific, right? So it's like you have to catch the right person in pain within the right demographic, and they have to be listening to the show, and then they have to be listening to the ad, right? They have to be listening to the commercial, and then the commercial has to get them to take action in the moment, right then and there. Most people listen to the radio in their car, right? So they're probably not going to pick up their phone and schedule an appointment. TV commercials, they're not effective, in my opinion. Number one, you're competing with multi-billion-dollar companies on TV. So it's like you get a Pepsi ad, and then you get your like crappy hometown chiropractic ad, and they see the differential in quality. And what that does is it reduces your credibility, because they're used to seeing with their eyes billion-dollar company commercials, right? They're not used to seeing, a $250,000 year chiropractic commercial that looks like a shot with a camcorder, right? So I wouldn't recommend TV ads. Now, there are things in radio and TV that you can do that do work. So number one, with radio, you can strike up a deal with a DJ, right? So if there's like a popular DJ that your demographic listens to, you should be approaching them and be like, hey, I'd like to trade with you. I'd like to barter with you, and I will give you and your family free services. And in return, I'd like you to talk about me on your radio show. Because what happens is when people do actually tune into the radio, they listen to the same DJ over and over again. And that DJ has built trust with them, right? And so you're bartering off of their trust in order to get a new patient. So if the DJ's like, yeah, I went to so-and-so, Dr. So-and-so, and he got me feeling so good, and he's authentic about it, it doesn't feel like it's like an ad, you can convert people off of that. The other thing you can do on the radio is do live radio shows, right? So you're gonna have the DJ, you're gonna have you, and the DJ's gonna interview you. People like that because it's humanized, right? It feels authentic because you're sitting there having a conversation, and things don't get trust, right? People get trust. And so when they can hear you in a longer format, like little interview, even if it's like 3-5 minutes, then they're going to build more trust. We did get a lot of new patients off of that. TV. So do not go into the commercial space, right? You're just competing with billion-dollar organizations. Don't do that. Now, if your local area has like a local area, like kind of like news show, like you can kind of think of like The View, right? Where it's like there's some hosts, and the hosts will have people on, and you can have like a conversation about something, kind of like the radio thing, where it's like 3 to 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, whatever, and they can see you interact as a human being. You can get new patients off of that. We did that in a small town, and people always called in and said, hey, I saw Dr. So-and-so on the TV. Can I get a new patient appointment? Why? Because they're not looking at a thing, which is a commercial. They're looking at a real life person, right? People build trust. Things do not build trust in the healthcare space. You need to have people. So if you can get on like a segment like that, and usually you have to pay for them, right? So you'll have to like pay to be on, and they'll interview you, and it'll look like it's like a dialogue between you two, even though the topic's usually figured out beforehand. People really like that. It does build trust. So if you're going to do a radio show where you're like talking, or get with the DJ and provide free service in exchange for them repping your brand, right? And then if you're doing TV, get on a local TV show that people watch and have a conversation. Don't do a commercial, okay? Do the conversation. Now, what else? Those are the big ones that people use. Now, I'm leaving out the one that drives in the most new patients, period, right? So the one that you should focus nearly all of your attention on, right? And it goes back to that premise. I'm going to keep saying it until people understand. People trust people. People don't trust things. Is having like an external marketer, right? And you can think of it like how pharma reps operate, right? So your external marketer, they're going to go into businesses and they're going to be a salesperson, right? Just like a farmer rep, they're going to be a salesperson, and they're going to have conversations with people. Okay. And we have training on this. We have scripting on this. We tell them what to say, how to say it, when to say it, what the questions are that you ask, what your responses should be like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what they do is they go into businesses and they do lunch and learns, right? So and some of you already know this, they'll do lunch and learns and they will have conversations with people because people trust people, right? And they should be trained in sales before they do this, or you will waste your time and money. They need to be trained, okay? And if you don't know how to do it and you're not successful at it, then you cannot train them to do it, right? You need to have someone like me or my team that knows how to do it, that is successful at it, to teach them how to do it, okay? And I know that some of you don't want to hear that because it feels like a pitch, but it's just true. I'm trying to save you time and money. So you hire the right person with the right personality, you train them correctly, you role play with them correctly, and then you send them out for lunch and learns, and they get in front of businesses, and they should get in front of at least 2 a day, right? So they should call, set up lunch and learns, get in front of 2 a day. And from that, you should get 40 to 60 new patients every single month per external marketer, right? That's a good external marketer. Your average person is going to get 20, maybe 25 new patients a month. But you obviously want to search out the good ones if you can find them, and you train them. And that's how you scale your new patients. You interface with people. You have a rep that goes out and interfaces with people. And I just want to be really clear. I am not talking about having a PR, like a practice representative who goes out and just does booths or provides like buffets and just stands by the booth or the buffets like, oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, hey, how you doing? Yeah, so we do this. That is so ineffective and a complete waste of time and money. If you ever have a rep doing that, you give them a warning and then you fire them, right? Their job when they're there are to schedule appointments on the spot for your clinic. That is their job. They're not there to be a pretty face. They're not there just to chat. They're not going to networking events just to have tea and just like discuss irrelevant things. Their sole job is to drive new patients in, and they need to schedule those appointments at the events, okay? They are not there to hand a brochure, hand a piece of candy, and let the patient go, yeah, I think I have pain, I'll look you guys up, because they will never call. They will never call. They need to convert them at the event to a paid appointment, okay? So I'm not gonna give you all the stuff that I use to grow $6 million practices, like what they say, how they say it, what questions they ask, what their body language needs to look like, what sales skills they need, like what the right person is. But just knowing that can make you very successful, okay? You're not gonna run a $6 million clinic off of that, but what you'll find is that you might have people that can bring in 5 to 8 new patients a month just off of knowing that, okay? Maybe 1 a week. They need the sales skills in order to bring in, 30, 40, 50, 60 a month, okay? They just do, they're salespeople. So that's like your bread and butter, lunch and learns, right? They're gonna go out there and do breakfast and learns, lunch and learns, snack and learns, massage events, whatever, trigger point assessments, tension assessments, whatever, right? And they're gonna go into businesses and offer this service. They're gonna cold call those businesses. They're gonna get them set up for an appointment. They're gonna show up to that appointment with food and feed their people. And then they're gonna convert appointments at the event, scheduled, paid, good to go, right? And you should offer a new patient deal. It shouldn't be full price. The goal is to make the bar low, right? You wanna make the bar low so that there's not as much like pressure on the person to say no, because if you're good at sales, you can sell a $40 new patient appointment where it includes everything, where you usually get paid, $200 or $300, and then convert them to a plan that's worth $6,000, $8,000, $10,000, right? So that's what you want to do. You want to do it that way. And like, I don't care about the new patient dollars at all, because if I increase that to $200, my external sales team is not going to convert 30% of the people they're in front of. They're going to convert 1%, and then I'm not going to have a business that is successful, right? So I'm getting greedy over the 300, and I'm giving up the 10,000. Many of you have this inclination, like, well, I don't want to give up this, this $150 and make it $40. I'm telling you, I've done it. Make it a low bar. Don't make it free, because then they won't show up. Don't make it so low that they don't care about the money. Don't make it so high that it's resistance, right? It should be something like $40, right? $50, $30, $25, something like that, right? Ours was always 40. I always did $40. It's just a $40 new patient deal, okay? So the reason you're doing that is because you want the person to pay on the spot, right? And they can do Square Reader, they can give a check, they can do cash, they can do whatever. They're going to pay on the spot for the appointment. The appointment's going to get scheduled. Now they have buy-in. Now they have commitment, right? So now they're probably going to show up. Now, those are like, just that part about external marketing has the ability to change your practice. Like without even me giving you all of the things that I've learned about sales, all of the things that create 125 new patients every single month off of 2 salespeople, right? All of that, without even giving you all of that, that should be able to radically change your practice, right? Just knowing that you need to have the right person. This is a salesperson. They're going to go and they're going to do lunch and learns. They're going to do 2 of them a day. They're going to lunch and learns, breakfast and learns, whatever. They're going to go into businesses. They're going to do 2 a day. And their goal is to convert to an appointment, a scheduled appointment at the event for, $30 to $50. And then the likelihood that they show up increases. And then you run them through the rest of your inside sales process, right? Where you're going to put them through a new patient consult. You're going to put them through report of findings. And some of you are going to get like, ew, I don't like this word sales. And I'm telling you, people who are in pain become accustomed to their pain and they normalize their pain, right? And you know this, like if you've actually paid attention to the patients who come in, there's so many people who just normalize their pain. They say, yeah, this is normal. It's not normal. It's not normal to have pain at any age. It's not normal, right? And so they need to be convinced to do something about it, right? Just like an addict needs to be convinced to stop being an addict. Just like, a child needs to be convinced to take care of their room, right? Anybody who does something habitually over time is going to normalize that thing. And then that's going to be their new normal life, even if that normal life is abnormal by everybody else's accounts, right? So that's how pain works too. So they need to be convinced. So another word for convincing someone, persuading someone is sales, right? They need to be sold to. And what you're selling them is not something they don't need. What you're selling them is the life that they want, right? Mary Smith, who can't chase her grandkids through the zoo, wants to be able to chase her grandkids through the zoo. She wants to, right? But she has pain and she's had it for 5 years. And so this is Mary Smith's new life. This is her new reality. But the reality that she's living in is absurd, where she can't do that. She should be able to do that. And it's your job to convince her that she should be able to do that and then get her through the delivery of your service to a point where she can do that and have the life that she wants. That is not unethical. It is unethical to leave Mary Smith in that area and be reasonable with her and agree that this is normal, right? That is unethical for you as a provider. So that being said, I won't die on that hill. Actually, I might die on that hill because it's just so important. Like, you have to know how to sell. You have to have people who can sell in your practice. Otherwise, people go untreated, and that's not okay. So external marketing, knowing that is your bread and butter. That's what you need to do. If you want to know more about like hiring and like how to fulfill all of that, there's a video on chiropractic growth, and it's under people and hiring that you need to go watch. Okay, it's another podcast like this, right? So go watch that video, and that will help you understand the order by which you need to hire people and how to hire a marketer, right? It's not going to go in the details, right? The details are more comprehensive than what I can give you on a video like this. That's why we have a coaching business. But it should give you enough information that you can kind of get the ball rolling. But just don't be surprised if you kind of like run into like a wall of I don't know, okay? And I'm giving you the metrics so that you know whether you're doing a good job or a bad job, right? So an external marketer should bring in, an average one should bring in at least 30 new patients a month. A good one should bring in at least 40 new patients a month. And a poor one should bring in at least 20 new patients a month. If they're not doing that, they're terrible, okay? And what I mean by they're terrible is they might be the right person, like the right person, personality, but they have not been equipped with the right knowledge. They have not been practiced. They have not been role played through that knowledge enough to where they can go out and deliver it, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean fire them, but you need to get them training, right? And so the money that you pay for training is nothing compared to what they will produce for you, right? So one of my external marketers, one of them made 6 figures, right? But she produced $3 million a year for the clinic, $3 million, okay? So they need to be paid well, right? And all of the details like that are in that other video, so go watch it. But you need to have the right person. They need to be trained. And if you don't have this person, you can be this person, but you also need to be trained on how to do this, how to sell, right? And everybody hates a coach saying, well, you need to be trained, you need to be trained, you need to be trained, because it sounds like they're pushing their business. But what I'm telling you is if you don't have the knowledge, you're gonna get disgruntled and it's not going to work. I have seen it over and over and over again. Even the salespeople that I train that go out there and don't follow what I tell them to do, they aren't successful. And I've trained them, right? The ones who go out and follow exactly what I tell them to do, and I've role played it, and so they know it like the back of their hands, they're successful, right? So there's a lot of people who are gonna be like, well, you need to do, these are the things that you need to say. And what I would ask, or I already have an external marketer, and they bring in, 5 new patients a month, so it's impossible to bring in 60. BS. I have people who do it. But they need to be trained, right? And they need to not just go to events to stand around and collect their little base pay in order to make a living, right? That's not the point of the event. This is not a brand awareness campaign. This is a lead development campaign. And what that means is they're going to convert a person they come in contact with to a new patient appointment. That's the purpose. So, all right. So I think I harped on that enough. There's a ton of information about how to do this that we will provide you in our training, right? So if you have an external marketer, if you want to learn how to do it yourself, and you as the owner should know how to do all of it yourself, because if not, you're relying on chance, right? It doesn't mean you have to be the best at it, but you have to know how to do it. Otherwise, when you have these expectations of other people, but you can't do it yourself, you're going to look really not credible, right? It's going to reduce their respect for you. If you're like me and you know how to do it all, sales, operations, billing and finance, I have a lot of credibility. So when I say do this, they do it because they know that I can do it. They've seen me do it. So you also need trained. But ultimately, when it comes to sales, when it comes to growing your practice, when it comes to marketing your practice, those are the categories that I would push you towards, right? Number one being external marketing, okay? And once you get good at that and you have a higher profit margin, right? When you have more money coming in, then you can take a chunk of that and you can put it on paid social, right? Or like Google clicks or whatever. You can take that and put it on that. And that is an adjunct to this external marketing thing, okay? This is never gonna be the primary thing. This is always gonna be the primary thing because people trust what? They trust people. They don't trust things, right? And so even a paid ad is a thing, right? And so it's just not going to convert as well. So what cost me $100 to convert a new patient over here cost me almost $600 to convert a new patient over here with digital marketing, right? So it's much cheaper to do this. This requires people, requires management, requires training, requires your time. And so, but in the beginning, if you're not doing $1 million, right, you have time. You have time to train them. You have time to hire them. You have time to onboard them. You have time to get them successful. As you grow, right, and you get into like the $3-4 million range, your time availability is decreasing because you're spending a lot of time running the business, right? That's when you can start taking, now you have more time than you have, or now you have more money than you have time, so you can take the money and put it on digital ads, right? But in the beginning, you have more time than you have money, and so you need to hire someone. If you're not good at sales, and there's metrics to determine if you're good at sales, right? So I told you one of them. It's like, if you're in front of 10 people, you should convert 3 to a new patient appointment, right? And that's 10 people in general. That's not 10 people in pain. That's, I pick 10 out of the population, right? I do a little presentation for them, or I do attention screening, or, I just talk to them and do a little consultation with them. Of those 10, a random out of the population, I should convert 3, okay? And why is that? And I get into this in the other video that you need to go watch after this. That's because in the United States, 60% of Americans are in pain, okay? So what that means is that if you convert 30% of 10, you're converting half of the people in pain. So you pluck out a group of 10, 6 of those people are gonna have pain, you're gonna convert half of them, right? But you don't wanna, that's too much to track. You just need to track for your digital marketers, how many are they converting as a whole? Well, I got in front of 12 and I converted 2, right? That's a poor conversion percentage, right? They should convert no less than 15%. They're converting less than 15%, they need training, right? If you're converting less than 15% over the course of being in front of 100 people, you need training, right? And what that means, you get the training, you get up to 30%, you get double the amount of reward for the effort, right? So at some point, you can only do numbers games to a certain amount, right? It's like, you could do 4 events a day and run yourself ragged, or 6 events a day and run yourself ragged and convert 15%, or 10%, or you could do 2 events a day and convert 30% and use the other time for other activities, right? Other revenue producing activities. So that's how you want to think about it. Everything's like you're going to rob Peter to pay Paul, right? And so you want to make sure you're robbing the right Peter and paying the right Paul. Otherwise, you're going to put yourself in a bad situation. So that's marketing. It's a really short overview, but hopefully that gets you pushed in the right direction. If you want the detailed stuff, if you want like, this is what they say, this is how they say it, this is the body language, this is the sequence of events that needs to take place to get 80% of the patients to close, to get 30% of those patients to convert to new patients appointments, so that your practice can explode, you have to get with us. That's where that information is at. And it takes more than a 30-minute podcast to do that. As well as it comes with everything else, right? It basically covers the entire cycle of sales and marketing, operations, billing, and finance to make sure that you can continue to grow $6 million clinics over and over and over and over, so that you can have unlimited income, right? You can have unlimited clinics, you can do unlimited help. So that's it for today. We'll see you next time.